Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're a couple minutes after the hour. Again, would like to thank everyone for taking their time today to attend today's ZAP BI for Dynamics, going through data management and analytics for Microsoft Dynamics. We are recording today's presentation, so you are in listen-only mode. I will be sending everyone a follow-up email within the next day with a copy of the recording and a link with the PowerPoint slides as well. With that being said, I would like to turn things over to Mary Miller-Friedman, our Director of our BI Operations, to kick things off. Mary?
Thank you, Brian. Hi, as Brian said, I take care of our BI tools for our clients. So we work with our clients across the different systems and assist with finding the right tools to do reporting and budgeting. And with that goal in mind, we're pleased to bring you this demo today from Sage Data Management and Analytics. We've got Bill Tennant on the line. He's from ZAP, and he takes care of customer sales, customer needs, and we're also going to have Kevin Tan, who's in pre-sales and is going to actually show you the system. So with that, Bill, would you like to take over?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Mary. Thanks, Brian. And really appreciate the opportunity to present the ZAP BI solution today. So I'm going to take you through just a quick overview of our solution and then hand off to Kevin Tan, who has a tremendous amount of experience with our overall product. And we're very keen to take questions and ensure that we provide a means to fully understand the value that we provide for our Dynamics customers, specifically Dynamics GP, as I know we get into the overall product here. So what we like to do is really use the analogy of the iceberg, because frankly, BI is very similar to an iceberg, and that 10% of the actual work and the actual value, the actual aspects that are seen from the underlying business really tend to be above the waterline. It's the piece that are the pretty dashboards, the pretty charts, the information that's delivered out to the end users. But that being said, there is also 90% that comes below the waterline. That's the work, that's the effort that's put into ensuring that the data is right, ensuring that the data is integrated across multiple solutions and multiple functional areas. And that's where 90% of the work historically has gone into BI deployments. In fact, many organizations have gone through 12 to 18-month data warehousing and BI projects just to get to that point where they have that 10% above the water. And other organizations have gone ahead and started working with things like self-service tools such as Tableau or Power BI, or even things such as Excel. And at the end of the day, the unfortunate reality with self-service BI is without that underlying piece that's below the waterline, the piece that really is that effort that's associated with a data warehouse or an integrated version of the truth, there are material inconsistencies. There can be material inconsistencies in that data. In fact, Gartner has said that up to 40% of self-service BI initiatives have left material inconsistencies in the data. And so what we do at ZAP is we actually deploy a solution that can be deployed both within the cloud as well as on-premise to give you an ability to have a hybrid solution regardless of where your data sits. And that is allowed and that is driven and to deliver a data model and analytics for rapid go live. So beyond that, we also integrate any different data source that you could imagine, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, as well as model data, customize the model, and put you in a position to truly leverage an overall version of the truth that integrates every different aspect of your business across any data source. And by doing that, what we're doing is dramatically reducing the risk and ensuring that you have a predictable total cost of ownership associated with a well-governed data management solution that delivers out those best practice role-based dashboards, which we provide out of the box to ensure that you're successful with your overall BI deployment. And so just again, at a high level, we can take just about any data source, whether it's Dynamics GP, whether it's a separate instance of Dynamics CRM, Salesforce.com in the cloud, any type of Oracle, Sage, Dynamics, Infor data, pull all of that together within the ZAP BI data management solution, and that allows us to then deliver out those specific role-based dashboards and analytics. And because we're providing that end-to-end solution, it really gives us the ability to deliver, as I said, a very much out-of-the-box solution that does not require extensive long-term data warehousing projects. It puts you in the driver's seat so that you can connect, collect, integrate, and manage data from any data source into one trusted data hub. And it ensures that you can meet the most demanding reporting needs within the business. And so again, I think maybe most importantly, the accurate, secure data delivered by the system administration tools and the built-in data governance really ensures that those flexible role-based analytics are actually meeting the needs of the business and not putting you in a position where you're making decisions based on faulty data. I think we've all been in those meetings where every person in the room is supposed to have the same report, and unfortunately everyone has a different report because what they put together is slightly manipulated based on their understanding of the data and the truth. And so everything we're providing, everything we're going to show you today really is designed to remove the complexity associated with a business intelligence solution. And by providing that data management and analytics solution to you, we're really reducing the cost and risk to ensure that you invest once and are able to take advantage of a rich, holistic solution that gives you insight into the data across multiple data sources, across multiple functional areas, and ensures that that data is accurate, secure, and trusted, because at the end of the day, that is what results in end-user adoption and success of overall BI projects. And so with that, I'm going to transition over to Kevin Tan. And again, we're very happy to answer any questions. Please don't hesitate to put them into the chat box and or the questions panel, and we'll make sure we cover those off. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Hi everyone, my name is Kevin, and today I have the pleasure of showing everyone the product. What you're seeing on screen right now is the ZAP Business Intelligence application. As you can see right at the very top, it's a pure web-based application which you can access from within your organization or out from the internet as well. Now to get started, ZAP BI is a mature product used by our customers all over the world. It's very easy to use, which I'll show later, and its intuitive interface really helps organizations manage their reporting needs in one environment. Now, there are three major areas in our application, which I will speak about and show today. The first part is to do with prepackaged analytics, where if you see on screen right now, a couple of different dashboards I'd like to show you and walk through them, just to give you some flavor of some of the features within those dashboards. And that's the first part of this presentation. Now, these dashboards that you see are not cast in stone. All the metrics, charts, and tables that you see within the dashboard can be easily changed and personalized according to your organization's requirements. Now, the second part of the presentation will be to show you a little bit of the design elements within the product, just to show you how easy it is to create a brand new piece of content and be able to embed that content onto a dashboard. Together with creating design elements, that also allows you to distribute those elements. So you'll be able to export them out and also send them out by email or publish them out to Excel or PDF at a specific time. And the very last part, hopefully we'll have enough time for that, would be to show you a little bit about data modeling. Now, within an organization, as Bill had mentioned, if you are not into the building of the BI solution from the first instance, by the time you find out that things are very, very different from what you initially expected to be, would be at the end of the project. Now, with that interface and modeling capability, someone who's not really trained up in how warehouse and business intelligence backend works can really look at the model and understand what's going on to pull the data that you see on screen. Now let's start straight away with the prepackaged analytics. What you're seeing in front of you is something a chief financial officer would see. So someone in finance would be able to look at the 5 different pillars of finance areas. For example, you have your performance, which looks at your sales and gross margins and operating profits. You look at the activity and the monies that you pay out and receive. So you have AR and AP and your cash-to-cash cycle. You look at profitability, how much of the returns you're getting for every dollar you spend. You're looking at liquidity, how much working capital you have. And lastly, you look at leverage, how much debt you're actually incurring within the organization. Now, with these 5 different areas, we have various charts. You have your gross margin over time, which shows you a bar chart across your time period. And at the very top here, there are actually slicers that determine what your time periods will be. So in this case, if I'm pulling December, I'm really pulling the year leading up to the end of the month, end of the year, I'm sorry, with December. And I can also see it by various companies. So in the event that I want to focus my attention not on this, but say, let's pick another company, Germany, your data would change accordingly. Now, because I'd rather see my home country, I'd go back and just pick another country where my company exists for, and I get the data for that company. All right? Now, moving across the content, it shows data for AR, it shows data for AP, but I might want to get more information with that. So just hold that thought for a moment. I'm looking at liquidity ratios over time. So I can build the trend charts, I can build the bar charts across my axes, and the same information for operating profit below, as well as trend lines to show my returns on assets and equity, as well as my debt information. So all these charts below really serve to add more detail to the 5 pillars that I mentioned on top. Now I want to get into a bit more detail about this because I'm looking at net sales and gross margin, and within my dashboard, I'm able to drill into a second dashboard that looks at my income statement in a little bit more detail. So I just want to do a drill out to that, and that allows me to see within that another dashboard. From the first dashboard, I drilled out to see the income statement where I can build out my specific income statement structure. And on my right-hand side, there are a few different charts to support the information in my income statement. All right. Now I'm looking at my operating expense for my month to date for November. That's the month where I am concerned about, and I'm seeing a number of 713 in thousands. So if I wanted to get more information about this, and this applies to all the data within the reports and dashboards, I can double click onto a number, and that will bring me into a drill down detail with which I can use to export to Excel or send out to someone else. Okay, so what it's doing now is it's collecting data at the lowest level. Now the drill report is really but that means that you're able to export that out. So ignore that maximum. That doesn't really matter when you do an export. So with all these number of records, and there's only a limit to what our eyes can see and absorb. So the best idea for this would be either to have it out on print or to export it out into another format that can be consumed by other users, or even in other applications for that matter. Okay. Now this is a very flexible drill through piece of data, because once you can export this out to a CSV mode as well, or even to Excel, and from within Excel, all your Excel functions that everyone commonly uses and are proficient with will come into play. Just close that for the moment. And now what I want to do is just to close out everything and get back to my Chief Financial Officer. And other than that, we have a couple of supplementary dashboards. So we have one for AR and AP, just in case I need more information. I'd be able to do a drill out into an accounts receivable dashboard as well that gives you a lot more analytics across the receivable side of the business. So the same would apply for the AP. We do have something as detailed for the AP as well. If I were to look at, say, top 10 overview to AR, and just to bear in mind that some pieces might not have any data, really depends on the time period that we're picking. But in this event, if I look at Sparrow Retail, some of the data and charts would change according to that company that's owing the money. Okay, just clicking through some of these just to see that that information is parameterized and passed through to the other parts of the dashboard. Okay, moving on to a different subject area. We move out from Chief Financial Officer and take a look at it from a sales perspective. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, none of these are cast in stone. In the event that you learn to build a little report and you want to replace that report, you can easily do that. So in my next piece, I'm looking at the VP of sales. Just hide the top panel so we have a bit more space. Now in this VP of sales, I'm looking at regions. I look at all companies. I look at it by my calendar time period, which I happen to look at November of 2012. I look at customers by segment, and I look at this piece, and it doesn't look very intuitive to me because I have to mouse over just to see what kind of information is being displayed here. Now I've got top 5 customers. I've got actuals versus my targets, which are also captured within the system for a more comprehensive set of data. I've got my contribution margins and where they fall under from a percentage perspective, sales forecast, and trends. Now, back to this customer by segment. Don't really like to see it in this manner. I can easily just check on that. Go to the design mode, clear out that little piece right there, and let's get into my supply chain, into my sales folders, and I do have a little piece that I have done in a pie chart. So in fact, I want to use that instead. So just adding that piece there, it's as easy as that. Just remove the part and just dragging it on and saving the dashboard. So in that way, I can easily customize this dashboard and make it as personal as I possibly can. Now, as I look at the various countries or regions right here, if I look at the USA, click on that, nothing really happens. But within the dashboard, I can say, make this a primary slicer and slice up these pieces for me. So when that happens, if I click on the USA, you'll notice that the numbers will change according to the customers and according to the targets for the United States. Now, the rest of them, if I were to look at India, for example, you would see some of the customers within India. If I look at China, I see the same thing. It's just that we have customers out of China. And if you look at Russia, of course, you have the customers out of Russia. So in this way, it makes the dashboard a lot more interactive. And in my final dashboard, just want to close this off for now. In my final dashboard, let me open up the left panel. Just want to look into inventory as well. So I've only showed finance, sales, and inventory, but in real life, within our prepackaged contents, there would be a whole host of other areas that we can look into as well, right? So inventory, you get to see the statistics that we've put up at the top. So all these metrics are pre-calculated within our system. Again, nothing is cast in stone. Go into it, customize it, make it your own. Let's look into the ratios. We've got inventory turns, we've got valuations, how the inventory is registered when it comes into the system, what are my top 5 groups, as well as some of the charts that look at the movement trends are available straight out of the box. The nice thing about this is you don't have to start everything from ground zero. Once you install ZAP, all these prepackaged contents just come into the application automatically and is trained against your data set. So instead of starting at 0%, suddenly you realize that you are up by 80% and you want to modify every other piece to make it a higher percentage. In terms of percentage, what I mean is it will be catered to your individual organization's requirements. If I look at valuation, for example, again, just demonstrating some of the drill capabilities and other contents, I'm able to look at a valuation by item, by my various costs, adjustments, what the valuation is, and the average cost prices. Now, all of this information is displayed on screen, but if you're a designer of the system, the ability to make modifications is also available. So you'll be able to, really personalize this piece of content. Okay. And finally, within the Inventory Manager dashboard, there is the inventory quantity movements as well. Kind of open it up already, so we don't have to click on it again. And this basically looks at the aging of your inventory, as well as the inventory on-hand value. So these are out of the box, ready to be used. So that's the first part of my presentation where we show you some of the prepackaged content. I've only barely grazed the surface, and as you install the product, you'll be able to see a whole range of other analytics as well. Now, in the second part, I really want to show you how an end user would be designing a report. So for now, just want to create a brand new report and show you how it can be built. So everyone, I'm starting with a new report, and I'm going to build a gross margin, or rather a margin report compared across various months. This month compared with last month, same month last year, and year to date. So basically a margin comparison report. Now to start, I have to go to measures, and my measures contain really my data sets. My data sets come from my general ledger, and everyone do notice that we have a lot of different subject areas which will be trained against your data, just so that you'll be able to just use any subject area, and it does cross-ledger analysis. So I'm going to open general ledger and pick up the GL amount. So that's a good number there. It's 0 because it's all balanced out. Now the way it's done is we go to the number of dimensions here have been heavily shortened because these dimensions would only relate to the GL module. Okay, so you don't have relations to dimensions that are totally not relevant. So all of these are relevant dimensions. We look into company, and I want to add that to a slicer so that I can pick and choose the company that I'm interested in. And I'm really interested in the United States. Okay, that still shows as 0. That's fine. What we want to do next is to go into the chart of account and look into, this is a hierarchy that shows me the account type into category into accounts. So what I'll do is look into the account type, pick up revenue as an entry, pick up expense as a second entry, right? And with revenue and expense, I can really build out a profit value. So before that though, I just want to ensure I pick up my dates. So I'm just going to pick up my fiscal months and add that to a slicer so that I can see it across months. Now, I want to work with 2012 as a data set. So I'm going to pick up December 2012, which has a decent amount of data. Now here you see revenue is a negative and expense is a positive. So to just flip the signs, just to show you, you're easily able to create a formula by just doing a right click on my GL amount and say multiplied by -1. That just flips the GL from a positive to a negative and vice versa. Just going to call it GL and apply that. Okay. Now the next step to do would be to build a profit member of value. So what we do is we do a mouse over on the white space, create a formula and say, show me revenue plus expense. And that's my profitability number. All right, so we have 460,000 right there. Now, I'm only picking data from 1 month, and I can do this. I will change the slicer type to a date range so that I can pick, say, December 2012 as the end month, and the beginning month to be January 2012. So that gives me data for this 1 year period. But hang on, I want to break this up by month. So what I'll do, so I'll just drag on month to the columns, and there you go, where I have January to December. Now I'm missing one more value as well. I'm missing a profitability percentage, which gives me profitability as a percentage of revenue. So I just want to do another formula here. Drag on my previously created profitability calculation and do a quick divide by the revenue figure. So that gives me profitability percentage. Extra U there and apply. Now the straight up calculation gives me a ratio. What I want to do is really to highlight that, go to formatting, and change the format from a ratio to a percentage. Okay, now it's showing as negative because we need to multiply by a -1 just to flip out the signs so that we have a nice looking report to use. So here you have a year's worth of profitability numbers for the United States company for January to December. Now that's great, but what if I wanted to compare a month against a previous month or the same month of a previous year? How would I be able to do that? So what I'll do is this. I'm going to remove that for the moment and change my slicer from a typical date range to a time context. Now, time context is interesting because it allows me to do comparisons across various months. So just want to select my December 2012 again. And within that, there's a functions library. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Excel, which I'm sure all of you are, you are familiar with the functions part of Excel where you can do VLOOKUPs, you can do concatenates and if statements. Now, ZAP has something very, very similar. We go to what we call relative time. And within relative time, instead of having to type in your parameters into the functions, we have them pre-built so that I can say, show me the context period, and that gives me December 2012. Nothing magical there. But another function that I want to use is your prior period. So I'll say, show me the period in the prior month. So that gives me November's numbers. So straight away, we have two buckets and the ability to compare between the two. Then I say, show me the period in the prior year. So I want to see December 2011. So now I'm comparing two, including the current, 3 buckets, right? And let's say we want to get it even further and look into year-to-date. So just going to pick up year-to-date. So I've got a year-to-date value now of January to December, or if you're on a different fiscal period, it will be a start of that fiscal year for the year-to-date. And the next thing I want to do is I want to say, look at the prior year-to-date value. So I have another comparison there, right? And what's the next step? The next step would be, naturally, someone would say, give me the month-on-month comparison, year-on-year comparison, and year-to-date comparison. So with these in the separate buckets, it's becoming really clear and easy how to do it. I'll go to a white space, create a new formula, and say month-over-month variance. And that's really my context period, which is the current period right there, subtracting the period in the prior month for a month-over-month comparison. Now, similarly, there would be a year-over-year variance, and that really would be the context period, again, whatever is the context reference for the slicer. But this time it subtracts the period in the prior year. That's the year-over-year variance. And the final piece would be a year-to-date variance, which is, as you probably guessed it, reference to year-to-date minus prior year-to-date. And this is my year-to-date variance. So it's that easy to start building calculations within the report. And I just want to move them to the right place, month-over-month, year-over-year, and lastly, the year-to-date is in the right spot. So with this in place, I could easily change a company or change a time period. So if I'm interested in November, you'll notice that November now compares to October and November the year before. So all these numbers dynamically change according to what I've selected. Okay. Once I'm happy with this, I'll do a quick save. And I'm just going to call this a year-over-year date comparison report. Now, as I'm saving this report, just to bear in mind, everyone, that everything that you do in ZAP, it's saved if you want to keep it. And that's a great thing because the last thing you want to do is for someone to be saving a report on their local computer. And in the event that that person is not available, suddenly you're running high and low trying to find out where that report is. So with ZAP, everything is stored on web folders and they're nicely secured. So the right people would be able to see only the right data. Okay, and everything being online means that if it's well organized and well governed, the data will always be there, the reports will always be there. So just saving this report right now. And let's take a quick look again onto my finance dashboard. So I have a general ledger and an income statement. So in my income statement, say I don't want to see the top right-hand piece. This piece doesn't really help me much. Instead, I want to see the comparison. What I'll do is, again, check on that piece, clear the content, go to Administrator, which is my personal folder where I've stored my reports, and just drag on my year-over-year date comparison report. And there you go. I would have got this dashboard defined the way I want it to be seen, and just save it. And once I've done this, I'll be able to easily show the same dashboard in consumer view. So consumer view is the view with which a user gets to see, whereas the portal view, which I've been using so far, is more for designers like myself to make changes, drill, and analyze the data in a bit more detail. But as a consumer, I'm available to use all the features, or most of the features that have been demonstrated today, the ability to choose slicers, to double click and to drill into the data, and also to export that data out into PDF or an Excel sheet, depending on the type of content that's being displayed on consumer view. Okay. Now, for those of you who are strong on using mobile devices, I could take that URL, and ZAP has a mobile application on Apple products and also something similar for Google Chrome, which can be run on Android products. So based on that, you'd be able to just emulate the data here, but of course with device features like pinching and double tap, so on and so forth. So that information is readily available on mobile devices as well. All right, so I've gone through some of the creation parts, and just the final piece that I wanted to cover would be some of the distribution components. So within ZAP, once you've built a dashboard, I can easily email this out to someone. I can export it out. I can and embed that onto, or rather share that out onto another portal like SharePoint if I wish. Now, instead of doing it via a pull method, I can have ZAP push out all these dashboards and reports to different users. So in order to do that, I have to send emails. Now, it gets a little annoying if there are 3 dashboards and the 3 dashboards will be sent in 3 different emails. What I really want to do is to create one package that has 3 different dashboards, and I want to put in some information as well, like maybe some commentary or a table of contents, some page numbers, make it into something a little bit more readable and professional. How would I do that? Within ZAP, there's a feature called a report pack. So I have a report pack right here, and when I click on that, it allows me to drag on the various resources that I want to bundle in my report pack. So I'm going to bundle my Chief Financial Officer dashboard. I want to look into my Inventory Manager's dashboard. And lastly, I also want to look into my VP of Sales dashboard. And there was a change to the income statement, which I just made a few moments ago. I want to ensure that that gets propagated on that dashboard and displayed out via the package as well. So just going to add that 4th piece right there. So this is a simple report pack with just 4 dashboards. How can we jazz it up a little bit? So I want to add a cover page just so that there's a little bit of a splash screen at the top before the users straight away see the dashboards. I want to do an insert of the table of contents. So it's a step getting, we'll get a step there as to get it to look a little bit more readable and professional. I want to insert a section break. And in my section break, in the 3rd position, I want to say, let's put in a header. And my header would be report package, bold that, make the font a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit of space at the top as well, and say OK. I want to put a footer there as well because this is confidential information. So don't really want people to be spreading this around outside of the organization. I'm going to put confidential, say OK. And finally, it's always nice to have a couple of page numbers. So let's add the page number on the lower right. Now once ready, I'm going to save this report pack. And I'm going to go to my personal folder. And I'm going to call it report pack for 04132017, and click on OK. So once we've created it, what do we do with it? We go to New, create a publication rule, and very easily I can add the recipients, add the subject area, add the body of the email. Hi everyone, please review this package, and drag on that report pack. So here, put it into the attachment. So with the recipients, once they've been keyed in there, as they open their inbox, they'll be able to receive a copy of the report pack. Now everyone, at the very bottom here, you have dragged resources. This is in the event that you wish to only publish the data at a certain point in time on a certain day. You can create an event that's, say, Wednesday at 4 o'clock or Friday at 6 o'clock. That can be put here, and when that happens, all you need to do is save the rule and just leave it as it is. At the right time, Friday at 6 o'clock, automatically the scheduler will kick in and send the email out with the attachment to the various recipients. All right? Now we've created a report pack. This is how we distribute it, but how would it look like? Let's do a quick print preview, which will take a couple of seconds while it's compiling and building up the report pack so that you can take a look at how the users will really see it. So in lieu of time that we really have, this is really the second part of my demonstration. I'm just going to very briefly go through the third part while we have this running on print. I'm just going to toggle back to ZAP BI right now and give you an idea of how we do some data modeling. So just want to open up my Dynamics ERP demo model right here. And while we get to build all these fancy reports, dashboards, and report packages, what's really important is that the data underlying that feeds into these reports is actually accurate and governed. So because of that, we have the third part of the presentation for modeling. And in modeling, you have data sources. So you really can pick up a variety of different data sources, like Bill mentioned in the beginning. So if you have a Salesforce application, if you have Oracle, you're able to pull that data source into the model. Oh, slight hold here while I show you how the print looks. So here we have a report pack with that splash screen. So that's when it was created. You have a table of contents with the 4 dashboards that I had put in. We have report package as a header, and we have the dashboards embedded right here, a confidential note at the bottom, as well as a page number at the bottom right. Okay, so that's one piece. We have the second one, which is the inventory. We have the third dashboard, which is the VP of sales. And lastly, we have the income statement. And notice that this is the piece that I've added in there. Granted, we have to align some of these margins on the dashboard so that it looks good on print, but that can be easily done. And this is just a preview of what it is so that we can make the necessary adjustments and ensure that the final copy is really good to go. Okay, back to modeling. And within modeling, we were talking about data sources. Add as many data sources as you wish so that the various parts within those sources can be related to one another. A key part of modeling is really pipelines. So within pipelines, these are really how the extraction from your data sources come into that as a pipeline. And look at this as a pipeline that does a variety of different things in different steps. So first you move the data from the source into the pipeline. The second step is you do some transformation. The third step is maybe you join it with some data from another data source, and that gives you the final pipeline. So it's really a transformation step, which we call as a pipeline. And if you see here, there's quite a few different subject areas, starting from your aging buckets to companies, to customers, to products, general ledger. All that information is pulled into pipelines within the model. Okay. Now then you're probably thinking, how do the pipelines relate to one another? They relate through relationships. So if you were to open a pipeline has relationships to other pipelines, and that's how relationships get formed, and you're able to look at how those two pipelines relate to one another within a report. So I'll give you an example of that. For example, let's take a look at customer. So customer invoice lines. This is an example of invoiced sales data. So just give it a moment. What it does is it pulls from the source and loads up all the fields. And in the fields here, you'll see that these are the friendly names of those fields. and you are able to modify the friendly names as well to make them even friendlier for your own usage. Now, based on that, you have relationships. So you can see very clearly that the invoice sales are related to business units. They're related to colors. They're related to company, customers, dates, items. So that's how these relationships get set up. And if I were just to click on one relationship, you can see here on the right-hand side how the different fields relate. So item to item, data area to data area, which is company to company. All right. So once you can set all of this up and you have a friendly interface to set up pipelines, set up relationships, and based on that, you're able to build up your model. So allow me to close that up. Moving down the model screen, we have process configurations. This is a measure of how fresh your data is going to be. If you were to refresh this on a nightly basis, your data will be a daily, well, it will be refreshed daily. If you do it on an hourly basis, then your data is as fresh as the hour. So that's the process configurations. Whatever we cannot do within the pipelines and relationships, we are able to create database scripts for that. So a little bit of scripting in the event that we want to add that additional level of complexity to the model. We can add parameters so that a parameter is really like a variable. So for example, if you say that, oh, I wanted data only from 2012 onwards, that parameter will be 2012, and that parameter will be passed through into the pipelines so that we don't go with any data before 2012. So a parameter just helps a lot with convenience. Roles within the model allow you to secure your data. So maybe when I look at a sales report, I'll be able to see all regions. And when another coworker looks at it, he might only be able to see the United States and not international regions. So that's what roles are for. The same report, but when different people log in, they'll be able only to see different parts of that report. Okay? And modules are just a grouping of various objects within the model, so that if I pick sales, I only get all the sales pipelines and all the sales-related roles and parameters, so on and so forth. Okay? So with this interface, it allows people who are familiar, a little bit familiar with how the warehouse and the business intelligence concepts work, to really expand on that knowledge and build up a report in a fraction of the time it takes to do it straight away by jumping into a development environment and starting to build the pieces from scratch, because I can really assure you that it is a significant difference in time, and that time can be better spent on ensuring that your content is good, your validations are good, and you are building good content that it's it's good content that's relevant to the organization. That's really a more important part than spending all that time on the plumbing work. Okay. So at this point, those are my 3 parts that I wanted to cover. Quick summary. The first part was to show you the predefined or prepackaged analytics that come out of the box. The second part is how we very quickly create a report, and I hope you find that it's pretty drag and drop, intuitive way of building a report. Once that gets saved, it can be embedded onto dashboards to make them your own. We also looked a little bit at publications. So we built up a report pack, put in a few different dashboards in them, and push them out to a PDF, which can be sent by email. And lastly, we looked a little bit at modeling the various components and how someone with a little bit of background would be able to very quickly build up a model way quicker than if you were to build it from a technical environment. With this, I'd like to pass controls back to Bill Tennant. Bill, please feel free to take over for the next part.
Thank you, Kevin. I believe from our perspective, the overall solution has obviously been something that we're keen to provide and provide details around. But at this stage, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Kevin. At this time, if there are any questions, please go ahead and type those in the question panel below. Looks like we have a couple questions, so let's go ahead and get to them. Okay. Question number 1 I see is, I have data within my Dynamics GP and also my Dynamics CRM. Can you embed content from both solutions into one dashboard?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Kevin back here again. Like to take that question, if it's okay. So what happens is, in your model, there will be two data sources. There will be a GP source and there will be a CRM source. So somehow we need to find out where the common linkages are between those two data sources in terms of the data. There must be a couple of fields that are able to relate. If they do, fantastic. If they don't, we might need a bit of a mapping to ensure that the two data sources match up. Once those two sources match up, the usage of pipelines to pull in data from both sources, the usage of relationships to relate to both those pipelines would work in a model, and then that model with combined data would be on a dashboard. Alternatively, if you wanted to keep those two separate, you could bring in two different cubes, one for Dynamics GP, one for Dynamics CRM, build off content for both, and have both of them on the same dashboard as well.
So just to clarify and summarize, Kevin, this is Bill again. The answer to that is yes. Regardless of the mapping, you'd still be able to have data from two different solutions on one dashboard. If you wanted it contained within a single report, we would obviously want to ensure that there are some data points that align to the other data source. So perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. Do we need a DBA or a BI architect on staff to manage this solution?
Yeah, great question. So part of our overall solution is really the ability for a user who has at least a semblance of an idea as to what they're trying to link together, and capabilities around simply being able to learn our user interface would be able to actually manage, administer, and be able to provide an aspect of data modeling out to the business. We typically see the IT department managing the data modeling to ensure that there is a well-governed solution, and then a self-service aspect from the end users within the business as they take ownership of development of reports and expansion and modification of enterprise-wide or organization-wide reports that have been created for them. And that being said, the majority of the organizations we work with simply have someone who is a bit more technical within the IT department, not necessarily a DBA or a BI architect or someone in that capacity.
Okay, and last question I see is around alerts. Can I receive notifications if something happens, but I want to be aware of within my data?
Absolutely. So as part of our overall solution, we have a conditional event-driven scheduling system, which allows us to indicate if there are any type of issues around any KPI, frankly, that you determine that would then notify you if something has happened. For example, if cash flow or cash on hand were to drop below a given level, you'd want to receive a notification. That's absolutely something that this solution would provide. And then all the way back through to the actual administration and governance of the solution, such as if someone had attempted to access a report they should not have access to.
Okay, great. Well, that looks like all the questions that we have today in our panel. So we can go ahead and wrap up today's presentation. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for attending today. Also, Bill, Kevin, thank you for walking everyone through the presentation. If there are any additional questions or you would like to set up a more detailed demonstration, please let us know. I will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow with a copy of the slides presented and a link to the recording. With that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.